Hey guys, Jsnow with the ultimate leveling guide for World of Warcraft Shadowlands. So if you want to skip around the video, I'll put some timestamps in the description because there's a lot to discuss, but I also don't want this to be a forever video. So we're going to go from the best leveling to the worst leveling to the use at your own discretion leveling and the fun leveling. So first one's first is dungeons. So dungeons, the positives are each dungeon you complete basically gives you a level. I don't think maybe I've done one dungeon where I didn't get a level, but that was probably because there was no quest in the dungeon. The other positive is that everything dies so much faster, thank goodness. Because Battle for Azeroth leveling was probably the worst dungeon leveling I've ever seen. That I pretty much stopped doing dungeons, and I also stopped leveling alts, which I really don't like to do because I just love playing alts. But basically everything took forever, every boss was a bullet sponge, you couldn't pull more than 2 packs so you'll probably die. Healers stressed out, tanks dying, it was just an absolute mess. So now we're back to like when the heirlooms first came out, where everybody's like OP depending on your gear. So if you buy the enchants, gems, and the low level gear that's like best in slot, you will definitely face roll through the dungeons. If you don't, you still will probably face roll through the dungeons. So that's very good. So my suggestion for dungeons. So if you're a brand new account, you can't do certain dungeons because I think you're forced to do Battle for Azeroth. I can't confirm that, but I'm pretty sure if you're on a brand new account who's never finished Battle for Azeroth content, you can't use Chromie Time. But otherwise, if you do have access to Chromie Time, you go to Chromie Time and then select the expansion of your choice, and all that does is affect your dungeon queue. That doesn't actually affect where you can level. You can level wherever you want, but depending on which expansion you pick, so for example, I picked Burning Crusade, you can level in Burning Crusade. So everything dies pretty fast, you get the 1 level. Burning Crusade is also, in my opinion, the best expansion to do dungeons in because some of the dungeons are pretty short and straightforward. The bosses die really fast. Some bosses, like in the Blood Furnace, have extra low health for some reason compared to other bosses. And then the quests, you don't have to do like any zones to actually unlock the quests. The quests are right at the beginning, and a lot of them, the quest givers show up at the very end of the level, so you can just turn them in and leave the dungeon real quick. What I don't, now the downsides. Downsides is Legion dungeons. So, and other random dungeons. Certain dungeons have bugs where they need to fix the tuning. So, for example, Legion bosses were hitting like absolute trucks and one-shotting people left and right. If you stand in the fire, you die in like 1.5 seconds. So, not a very good fun leveling experience. I assume that will be fixed, but I still think Burning Crusade just beats it all out anyway. And then the other downside to dungeons is certain dungeons are super long. So you definitely don't want to do like classic dungeons because you might get some really, really long ones. The only long dungeon in Burning Crusade is basically the old Hillsbrand one where you have to rescue Thrall, but that's because there's a lot of RP in it. But for the most part, it's pretty easy. And then another positive I almost forgot, you can get socketed gems and stuff from Burning Crusade dungeons, which you can use at low levels, so that's definitely very good. And then remember this dungeon. Now, do you remember the Oculus? Oh man, we all remember the Oculus while leveling. So this dungeon was like the worst dungeon because it was overtuned, the mechanics suck, and all that. But people didn't realize that everything's easier now, so as you can see, everybody just left the dungeon immediately. But it ends up everything dies really, really quick anyway, and it's really not a hard dungeon. So I think we had over 10 people leave the dungeon in the beginning, which was absolutely insane because I was trying to explain to people, like, the dungeon's easy now, as long as there's no bugs. So there's also some weird glitches with certain dungeons where the bosses get you can actually one-shot the boss with the powerful Warlock Demon spell. And then the final boss of the Oculus, I guess our Drakes are overtuned or something, but it only took it didn't even take a minute to take down the final boss, which was a huge pain because I'm pretty sure he was overtuned back in Shadowlands. So it's really easy, and then if you take a look at my experience bar, so as you can see right there, he just took like 1,000, I don't know what he took just took a ton of damage. But yeah, you just complete that, nice and easy, get on with your day. So let's go on to the next best part of leveling. Whoops. So now the next one is herbalism and mining. So for some reason, these give about as much as killing 3 mobs at once. So if you get herbalism and mining and go to a place like Valley of the Four Winds or any zone that has a ton of nodes and like a little amount of mobs, I think Valley of the Four Winds is pretty much the best one because there's a lot of open panda farmland. But basically, every node you gather counts as 3, so you can actually level. I think somebody on Reddit did this, and they leveled from like 40 or to 50 or like 30 to 50 or something like that in like 3 hours. So if you want to get some gold on the way, just pick your favorite zone you want to gather in, and then just make sure you have flying. So in order for this to work efficiently, you do need flying, and you get that at level 30. At level 40, you get faster flying. So I definitely wouldn't attempt this until you at least get to either of those levels. But like, let's say you don't care about professions and you just want to gather a node while you're leveling here and there, then yeah, just take herbalism and mining, and then just go back and forth. I mean, you gain a lot of XP from this. It's just, I find this kind of boring unless I actually need a certain material, but it's also pretty easy because you can just put music on. You don't really have to pay attention to anything, and it's actually one of the fastest farms I can think of. As you can see right here, I'm already about to level. I think I started with 3 less bars. So all you have to do is be level 10 to get to your main zone, or you can probably get to the starting zone if you have an alt. Real simple. 2 professions. Go gather the heck out of them plants. And the next one is questing. So obviously, good old questing, you can't really beat it. The same thing in Battle for Azeroth. So quests give you a ton of XP. A lot of classes, like I'm playing a tank right now, even though he does have some gems and enchants, but for the most part, you can like 2 or 3 hit mobs, 2-shot them, etc. And then you can quest wherever you want if you have chromie time. So there's a lot of good places. Like right now I'm in Anthrol, which has a lot of easy like kill 1 creature quest in the middle of expansion, so you can fly from expansion to expansion, do all the easy quests for chromie time. I think chromie time is like the biggest draw of this expansion, even without the expansion even being fully out, because you can skip every quest that you don't like, and you can go to any zone you want as long as you have the chromie time active. So it's active to level 49, so once you hit 50, you get basically kicked out of chromie time. You get like a minute warning to get kicked out of it. But basically, once you get into, if you have an alt and you can do chromie time, and you just want a quest, that technically is the fastest way to level, especially if you know what quest to hit. So I know a lot of zones that are really good. Anthrol is really good. I like the Hillsbrand quest, only the first part of the Hillsbrand quest, because you go into that little town, there's a lot of easy turning quests. There is one thing that doesn't work though, which I'm a little bit sad, is the starter zones for each faction. So like the level 1 to 5 quest still count as level 1 to 5 quests. So unfortunately, you can't cheese the leveling. I was actually doing that before in BFA, where you could do the starter zone quest and they would give you the same XP as any other quest. So they nerfed that. I mean, it's understandable because otherwise you can probably just do all the starter zones and hit 50 or something like that. But otherwise, it's really awesome. You get a lot of XP, and there's not much to say about it. It's questing. Now, the next one is rare mob farming. So this only works in the vanilla zones because other rares in other zones either don't spawn as fast or they don't give any bonus XP. Like in Warlords of Draenor, there's a lot of rares, but none of them give bonus XP. So vanilla mobs still drop as much XP as about completing 1 quest. So the mobs that respawn the fastest are the ones in the starter zone. So right now I'm in Tristful Glades, which is for the undead starter, and my favorite one is there's 2 like right next to each other. Is the spider that's kind of bugged in the chimney, so you have to actually angle it to kill it. And then there's also like a farmer across from it, and then like not even a 30-second walk away from that, there's also a bat flying around, stuff like that. So this is good if you just want to get some random greens, but the problem with that is they used to be worth money due to the transmog market, but Blizzard messed up, and there was a huge bug where every dungeon was dropping 1,000, like literally thousands of greens. Like your bag would fill up before you even finished 1/4 of the dungeon. It was absolutely crazy. So there really is no more money to be made at the moment. You gotta wait for that stock to disappear, which might take a month. But otherwise, this is like an okay farm. You really need to have like a add-on. Right now I'm doing this from memory, but you really need to have like some kind of add-on for this to work out. Or if you're just like hunting rare items and stuff like that, then I guess it's worth it. But of course, if you want fast leveling, this is definitely not the way. So now we have Soul Dungeon. So this one disappointed me a little bit because it's about the same as Battle for Azeroth. So right now I'm actually almost twinked out with this character in this current dungeon. And so the dungeons scale to your level, but the mobs still hit like trucks for the most part. And then certain dungeons have more health than others. Like for example, this one, Scarlet Monastery, the mobs actually have a little bit more health than the normal vanilla content mobs. So you might be able to get away with maybe soloing Burning Crusade, but it's pretty slow. You get about the same XP as if you were doing the herb and mining one. So I don't really recommend it because it takes a while. And then there's a good chance you might die depending on what tank you actually picked. DPS is like near impossible anyway. So this one's going to be a hard sell, but you're going to have to trust me on this one. So this is Warlords of Draenor leveling. So Yeah, it has a lot of quests, and they're very easy, and there's bonus quests and stuff like that, but the problem is the maps are huge. So I wouldn't do this until you at least hit level 30, or maybe just do the intro quest and unlock your garrison. Yeah, I think doing the intro quest and unlocking your garrison might be a good idea. But the problem is, the intro quest is so boring after you've done it 1,000 times. And then you gotta fly all the way to wherever your starting zone is, and you have to basically do Warlords at least one time. So basically you go through the portal in your capital city, and then you would have to fly all the way to wherever your starting zone is. So of course, if you're Alliance, this is a lot quicker, but if you Horde, you got quite a long trip to go. But you can start the quest without doing the intro quest if you do take the portal and then go through. But the maps are just so big, man. So if you don't have flying, and especially if you don't have fast flying, you're going to be running around back and forth for quite a while. So I definitely do not recommend this. And then leveling to 30 is pretty easy anyway, so just use the small classic zones or any other expansion. And once you hit the 30, you should be good to go for Warlords of Draenor. Also, please note that the treasure skip that a lot of people did back in BFA, like you can go through the WoD expansion or whatever in like 2 hours or something like that, they nerfed that. So each treasure in Warlords of Draenor and in Pandaria only give as much as like half a quest basically. So it's definitely not really worth it. Like, yeah, you can get a couple levels out of it, but it's just, I don't think it's worth it in my opinion, unless you like need some spare gold or something. And a moment many of you have probably been waiting for is the PvP. So PvP is bad. Very bad. So on top of the way over-tuned bosses and epic BGs, but it is nice to be able to do level epic BGs, it is fun. But the bosses hit like absolute trucks. If you lose an epic BG, it takes probably the full 40 minutes or so because it's a really long loss. And if you take a look at the XP bar right now, it should pop up in a second. If you lose or win, you don't even gain a full level. So here, for example, I did gain the full level, but this was because we won an epic BG and we got almost all the objectives and stuff like that. But then when you go to a regular BG, you get a lot less experience. So if you win, you don't really even gain a level depending on your level. If you lose, you get literally like 1 bar. Literally 1 bar. So if your BG takes forever, you are getting no XP in a regular BG. So I would avoid PvP at all costs for leveling unless you have like twink gear and you think you can win a lot of them. So it really depends on what you want, what you prefer. But overall, if you want fast leveling, PvP is not the way. And then lastly, just a quick side note, I guess, that doesn't have to really do with leveling, but if you are rich in World of Warcraft, or you have at least like 10k gold or something like that, you can use almost every enchantment in the game. You can use almost every piece of crafted gear in the game at a low level, depending on what level it is. And you can socket it, you can use the enchants to give it more power, you can enchant your heirlooms, you can add sockets to like, I think the blacksmith has like a belt socket or something like that. So you can basically buy some of the best in slot gear, equipped it with sockets and a ton of enchants, and then you can go crazy in PvP. You could steamroll dungeons. I mean, that was my favorite part of expansions, and I felt like I had the classic WoW feel back when I was able to do this, like min-maxing my character at low levels just for the lulz pretty much, because it's really, you know, if you have money to blow, it's so much fun just making crazy, overpowered characters. So, I'd like to thank you guys for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, feel free to subscribe. Or like, actually I should say like the video. If you want more WoW content, feel free to subscribe. We also do VR chat, funny videos. I also have a second channel in the description below for Magic the Gathering and Yu-Gi-Oh content and stuff like that. I'm probably going to be doing some twink videos. I'm going to try to see what classes are busted. I mean, we kind of know what classes are busted, hunters and priests, but we'll see what happens. I'll try to make a twink of that and have fun with that. So anyway, thank you for watching as always, and I'll see you guys. And of course, there are more ways to level, but I think this is like the basic standard guide. So thank you. Have a good time leveling World of Warcraft, and I'll see you guys next time.